Hey guys, what's up? You're watching Clique, and today we're going to be looking at the MZ60 Luna Keyboard. This is a keyboard that kind of just came out of nowhere, and after using it and testing it for about a week, the results that I found really surprised me. If you're someone looking to get a quality budget gaming keyboard, then keep watching this video, because what I found is that the MZ60 is a great option, especially where compared to the GK61 and the RK61, which are very popular options right now. Let's get into it. Starting off with what you get in the box, you get the keyboard, a keycap puller, a switch puller, and a USB Type-C cable. Looking at the specs, the MZ60 is a 60% keyboard that comes in at the $50 price point for red, blue, or brown switches, and bumps up an additional $10 for yellow switches. The keyboard comes in two different colorways, black and white, and also two different variants, an optical version and a mechanical version. My copy is the mechanical version, not the optical version, and I just bought into a batch that was mechanical as opposed to optical, and also on the website it did mention that it will specify before you buy it if you're getting the optical or the mechanical version, just by simply stating that in the switch type. The PCB of both versions of this keyboard is hot swap, so if you get the optical version, you can swap out those switches with only other optical switches, and if you get the mechanical version, you can swap those switches out with other mechanicals. The stabilizers are play mounted, which is expected at this price point, and I would say that they're decent for gaming and just general use. Of course, you can always upgrade the staffs by clipping them and lubing them yourselves, but as far as the out-of-box experience, I would say that they're not terrible. The case of this keyboard is plastic, and it is at an incline angled from the top row down. The bottom of the keyboard is equipped with 4 rubber feet to help prevent it from sliding, whether you're gaming or even when I was testing it out just to move it sliding. It did do a pretty good job of keeping the keyboard stable and stopping it from moving over your desk. The connection, like I mentioned before, is a USB Type-C cable, which is great, and it's going to open it up to aftermarket cables if you want to go for a certain aesthetic with your keyboard or your setup. Now, at this point in the review, if you're noticing a lot of similarities in terms of the price point, the feature set present here, and even the aesthetic of this keyboard, you'd be right to assume that this keyboard is very similar to the GK61. I mean, these keyboards are both 60% keyboards, both have hot swap, both are USB Type-C, both have very similar ABS keycaps, both have very similar lighting, both have pretty much the same plastic casing and rubber feet on the back. In fact, the only differences I could find between these keyboards is the logo and engraving on the back of the keyboard. There is a slight difference in the legends on these keycaps, and if I'm not mistaken, I think the RGB on the MZ60 is just a little bit brighter than on the GK61. Now, I could be wrong because the MZ60 that I do have is made from a white case and white keycaps, which tend to reflect lighting better, but if my eyes aren't playing tricks on me, then I think the MZ60 has a little bit better lighting than the GK61. Also, my specific version of the MZ60 is mechanical, while the GK61 is an optical keyboard. Here's a quick sound test comparison of the MZ60 versus the GK61. The MZ60, in my opinion, has a slightly better sound profile than the GK61. Is it because it uses a mechanical switch as opposed to an optical switch? I don't know, but to me it just sounds a little bit more full, less hollow, and just a little bit less ping than the GK61. I also prefer the keycaps of the MZ60 over the GK61, and that could also be attributing to the improved sound profile. Overall, these keyboards do have a lot of things in common, but one thing these keyboards do not share is price. Looking at the price, the GK61 is about $10 more than the MZ60 when it comes to red, blue, or brown switch options, but when it comes to the yellow switch option, the GK61 is actually an entire $20 more than the MZ60. And when we're talking about budget gaming keyboards, $20 is a big difference that could be used towards your setup, your mouse pad, or just improving something else in your setup. This brings us to a very interesting question, which is it worth paying the extra money just to have optical switches? And this is really going to depend on if you care about having the lowest latency possible and the fastest possible response time. Optical switches are going to be faster than mechanical switches since they use a beam of light to operate as opposed to traditional mechanical moving parts, hence the name a mechanical switch. I would say for the majority of people, the MZ60 is good enough if you're just looking for a quality budget gaming keyboard and you don't care about having the fastest, lowest latency possible, and then you can just save the extra $10 or $20 or put it towards something else in your setup. I mean, we are talking milliseconds difference in response times, which for some people, I can see how it is worth the extra $10 to $20. But unless you're part of that certain group of people who wants the absolute fastest or lowest latency, then this probably is not worth the extra cash for you. If you're someone who needs to have an optical keyboard as opposed to a mechanical one, then yes, I do think the GK61 is still a great budget option. My breakdown on this is that if you need a good quality budget gaming keyboard regardless of mechanical or optical, then the MZ60 is the way to go. However, if you need an optical gaming keyboard for under $100, then yeah, I think the GK61 is what you should pick up. But if you want a higher quality budget gaming keyboard, then I would start looking at some of those other options like a Huntsman Mini or an Apex Pro if you want something a little bit better. And if you're thinking to yourself, Clique, the RK61 is also a $50 keyboard. Should I get this or should I get the RK61? And my answer would be, do you need wireless? If you need a wireless keyboard, get the RK61 because the MZ60 is not wireless. If you need hot swap or even just otherwise, go with the MZ60. You're getting a better variety of switch options and you're getting that 3-pin hot swap that you are not getting on the RK61. Checking out the software, it's available from MizarLab.com. They don't mention the software anywhere on the box. They do mention that they have a website on the quick start guide, and then that is where I found the software. Something else that I found ironic is that there is two ends of the spectrum. The GK61 software is completely convoluted and just too complicated for no real reason, and then you have software that is as bare bones as it can get with the MZ60. I'm talking very basic key assignment, very basic RGB control and macro editor. You can store up to 5 different profiles in the software, but overall, I'd rather it be simple to use like this than just complicated like the GK61, but for both of those, you can kind of just set it and forget it, and to be honest, you really don't need to use the software, but if you do need to use it, it is there, so that is nice. If you found this video even a little bit entertaining or interesting, if you wouldn't mind hitting that like button since it really does help out the channel, and if you're new here, I make all types of content on gaming and tech, so if you're interested in that type of content, consider checking out the channel and subscribing. If you have any questions that you want to ask me live, consider stopping by the Twitch streams where we talk about tech, we play lots of games, and it's an overall good time. I'll make sure to put a link to the Twitch streams down below in the descriptions if any of you guys want to check that out. Like always, you guys are awesome. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. 15. Okay, that's good. See, like when you can get the final mouse for like what it's actually worth, it's a great mouse, like performance wise. They know how to make good mice. I will not understand why they don't restock their mice. It just doesn't make sense to me.